Hello and welcome to this video on SBL InFocus webinar, March 2024. The webinar will focus mainly on the observations and comments of the SBL examiner for the December 2023 examinations. I trust this will serve as a very good guidance to you. It will enhance your level of preparedness which you would have gained through your preparation so far. There's, of course, a lot to learn from the comments and incorporate them into your exam preparation in coming weeks. In fact, there are two very pragmatic post-examination resources that ACCA provides to the students. Number one, the My Exam Performance that deals with the performance of an individual student, and the second, Examiner's Report, which demonstrates a holistic view of the performance of all the students who take these exams. I'll focus on the second resource today. In the agenda, I'll first start with common mistakes and weaknesses that are observed by SBL examining team based on the students' performance over the past SBL exams. And then this will be followed by specific comments on the answer scripts for December 2023 SBL examination. I'll unlock these comments for you with the help of technical examples drawn from that examination. So let's begin. Generally, students use various study resources of their choice when they prepare for ACCA exams, which is fine, which is all right. However, please ensure to use a wide range of resources that ACCA provides you to boost your performance. While many ACCA resources will help you in learning and understanding various syllabus areas, the examiner's report especially will help you with all important exam technique. So let's find out what the examiners are saying with reference to the SBL examination. I'll first start with some of the common weaknesses, general weaknesses that examiner has identified. The first and the most important is insufficient use of information from the exhibits to support the answers. And I'll take the second also along with it because they go hand in hand, insufficient application of the case material in the answers. Now, both these put together can be better understood if I give you an example. If the exhibit talks about, let's say, volatility of input prices, the weaker candidates may just ignore this important piece of information. Or some students may consider it only generally by saying that the input price volatility is risky. So this will evidence two things. Number one, insufficiently using the information. And second, insufficiently applying it to the given case scenario. But the stronger candidates will certainly deal with this point with elaboration on what impact it will create on companies' strategies, its current performance, its likely performance in the future, and its risk management strategies, etc. So while I will definitely provide you with the weakness that is identified by the examiner, I'll also give you guidance on how one could overcome them. Not answering the task and instead write what a student knows about the concept. This is very, very common since long. If, for example, the task asks you to evaluate a particular proposal. The weaker candidates will spend a lot of time and elaborate explaining what the proposal is. But that's not what is asked. You're supposed to evaluate the proposal, not detail out what the proposal contains. So you need to bring about clearly pros and cons and its impact, its influences on companies' future. But candidates tend to ignore that totally. Don't do that. Ignoring ACCA resources. Now that's quite evident, the examiner says, looking at the answer scripts, especially the study resources like Study Hub, technical articles, topic explainer videos, etc., that are available in abundance. But students generally use only the typical study text and practice kit, but they tend to ignore these important resources. And that's reflected, in fact, in the answers the students write. So please do go through and make full use of the resources that are available to you. Some of the weaknesses can turn to be the reasons for the failure in the examinations. Like, for example, lack of developments of the point made. Some students have this habit of only stating bullet points without really elaborating them, discussing them with reference to the task that is asked and linking it to the exam scenario. Now, this could be because of many reasons. Like, for example, a student may have a very poor level of technical knowledge, concepts, frameworks, models that are explained in different syllabus areas of the SBL examination. Lack of reading, lack of learning will get reflected into your answers. And therefore, you may not be able to develop your points to the level to which you're expected to do it. Now, since September 23, students are provided with pre-seen information a couple of weeks before the exam date. But the students who do not seriously read it, analyze it, and really master the information given in the pre-seen information, they poorly demonstrate commercial awareness about the industry in which the given company operates. So there's a lot of information given so far as the industry is concerned, so far as the company specifically is concerned. Students don't read that and analyze that effectively. And that causes you to not be able to gather your thoughts together in the most relevant manner and attributing it to the given case scenario. Wasting time by including irrelevant content. Irrelevance of the content will be evidenced in your answer scripts when, number one, you do not stick to the task that is asked by the examiner. You do not consider all the information that is given in the relevant exhibits, and you do not draw references from the pre-seen material. So make sure that you take care of all these 3 points when you prepare yourself to take SBL examination. And next couple of weeks, I would strongly recommend you concentrate on revising your thoughts on this basis. Failure to provide everything that the requirement specifies. Now, requirement may not be straightforward. So you need to read the task very carefully and understand what exactly the examiner wants you to do. Students look at the periphery of the task, okay, they look at who you are, what's your role, what's the audience, what's the verb used, what's the technical area that it's being tested, what's the professional skill that's being tested, but they fail to appreciate the fact of reading the actual needs of the examiner. And therefore, if you miss out on that, you may not be in a position to fulfill all the task requirements that are specified by the examiner. So please ensure you split the total task into its component parts and make sure that you answer all the parts. You cover everything that the examiner has asked to score a pass. Rote learning. Since beginning, for all the strategic level papers, examiners have been pointing out this as one of the very common reasons for failure. Rote learning, pre-prepared answers. Now, ever since pre-scene is available, students have this habit of, considering the pre-scene as the only source of answer, and then rote learn the pre-scene information and reproduce that information in the examination without even considering the impact of the additional exhibits that are given to you. This was evidenced by the examiner and hence included by them in the comments here as well. Let me now unlock the December 2023 examiner report. What the examiner said about the students' performance here. And then there are specific comments that are included in this report related to December 23. The first, standards of answer in December 23 were fairly similar to September 23. And that's evident in the fact that the pass rate in September was 50%, whereas the pass rate in December 23 was 52%. Not a sizable difference, as the examiner says, which actually could mean that if the standard for September 23 was considered as poor, it's also poor in December 23 in majority of the cases. So that's a specific comment made in the December 23 report. Insufficient use of time, that was clearly evidenced. Students spent a lot of time to include material that is not relevant to the task. So again, that is attributable to not reading the task correctly. Unnecessarily writing elaborate and lengthy answer plans, and that could leave you lesser time to actually write your answer. What you should actually do is write your answer plan to include only some important bullet points, and then take those bullet points to expand your answer considering what is asked in the task. Another weakness that's found, and you must avoid this at any cost, and that's making same point more than once using a bit of a different language. It's not going to get you any pass for that task. Application of information provided to answers was quite disappointing. That's what the examiner says. That means candidates write their answers in general language, in general terms, without linking it to the case scenario. And that's really dangerous. So don't say, okay, integrated reporting is a concept, a framework prepared by the IIRC, and it contains are as follows. Now, this is very generic answer. You need to find out the impact of using integrated reporting for the company in question, if at all the task is asking you that. Otherwise, the answer will be considered as irrelevant. There was more evidence of copy pasting the exhibit information into answers. Well, the copy paste facility is available in the examination, but has to be effectively and sparingly used. Use it only to save time in considering the information of the exhibit and bringing it into your response sheet, for example, Word document or a spreadsheet. But then you must be able to edit that copy pasted information to input your own findings, your own observations, your own opinions, suggestions, recommendations, criticisms, whatever is required in the task. Don't forget that at all. One more thing which examiners have pointed out time and again it's getting repeated in the December 23 examination. Students feel that they have written points and explained the points, and therefore they are entitled for 2 full marks because the guidance says 2 marks are available for a well-developed point. But what is well-developed? Students generally do not understand that. And therefore, examiner has given this guidance, which I strongly second. It is essential for you to evaluate and show to the examiner why are you considering the point as significant for the task and significant for the company, for the area that is getting tested in the task. For elaborating your point, make sure to effectively use the information. Identify what consequences the company is likely to face in case it fails to identify, or in case it poorly implements whatever proposal being stated in the exhibits, and support that point that you are making, with examples from within the case information. For example, in this examination, task 1 part B, students were supposed to evaluate 4 security layers related to data security risks. And the layers were given in the exhibit: human, perimeter, application, and data. 4 layers were given. Weaker candidates did not consider all 4 layers given in the exhibit. They just cut pasted the information, and some candidates only said, okay, better controls are required. But then they failed to support that argument by commenting on existing controls mentioned in the exhibits. So they simply reproduced those existing controls and didn't comment on that at all, why they are not useful in the current scenario. And therefore, they need to be strengthened, and the recommended actions as to what can be done to strengthen those controls. That's required. There was one positive sign though, and that was regarding professional skills marks. The examiner said many candidates had evidently thought about how the professional skill marks can be earned, and they attempted to present their answers in the required format, depending on, of course, the task requirement. Now, this was a positive sign. Many, of course, just cut pasted the information, and that would not provide you with professional skills marks. So you should avoid cut pasting and letting it remain like that. Cut pasted information has to be worded in your own words. Let me now come to specific technical skills that were tested in the December 2023 SBL examination, and see how the examiner has identified the student weaknesses. I have tabulated these tasks for you. Of course, it is not stated in this format in the examination, but for your better understanding, I have done this tabulation for this video. It identifies the answer format, syllabus area, technical and professional skills. First thing that you must be able to do is to read the task very carefully and understand exactly what is asked. And then make sure that each part of the task you have to answer. Now, just take, for example, part 1A, technical skills part. There are 3 aspects that must be forming part of your answer. 1, evaluation of information that is given by the risk committee chairman. Using that information, you should identify what impact it could create on the reputation of the company. And given those consequences, what actions do you recommend? So unless you write answers to these three parts specifically, you're not going to score a pass. Commercial awareness skill focused on how the data breach would damage reputation. So reputation has been identified again as a key phrase in this answer. Remember that very well. Part 1B. Now, this was of course related to the security layers that I spoke about and the recommended actions to mitigate that risk. Analytical skills, where you had to consider the information from the existing IT manual and also any additional security controls. Now, those you may find from other exhibits or from your understanding of the pre-scene as well. So let's see now what comments examiner has made on task 1A and B. The first is a serious comment: poor or no understanding of the security layers in the exhibit that was there for task 1B. This clearly means that students were not able to read the read the exhibit correctly and understand it correctly. And naturally, this will make them copy paste without adding any value to it and therefore lose marks. Weaker answers simply stated better controls were needed. I gave you that example earlier also. But then they failed to analyze why the existing controls are weak and therefore give suggestions which would make further improvements in the existing weaker controls. This was found lacking. Now, again, this is due to lack of appropriately understanding the exhibit information. Many candidates are unable to identify the exhibit information and make points that are contradicting to each other. Now, this was evident in this examination. Exhibit 1 was useful for task 1A, exhibit 2 for task 1B. And the contradiction that the examiner identified from many answer scripts was that students identified that the data breach occurred because the staff did not check the firewalls and because the staff did not report the instances to the top management. Now, task 1A answered. When they came to task 1B, they said, hey, everything so far as human layer is concerned is doing fine. So you're contradicting yourself, which is not a good sign and not a professional way of approaching your solutions. Weaker candidates failed to recognize the reputation impact all through. Now, I had indicated earlier also, reputation word was the key word, and that was highlighted by the examiner both in the task requirement statement as well as in the professional skills statement. So that's why it's essential that you read the entire requirement very, very carefully and mark and highlight those key words, important words for yourself. Some answers offered a more operational than a strategic perspective when you were supposed to evaluate risk committee chairman's comments. Remember, this is a strategic professional exam, and therefore your views need to be of strategic importance rather than mere operational significance. So consider each of these comments with the kind of appropriateness that you will be able to rectify in your preparations and approaching your own SBL examination in March. Task 2, A and B, briefing paper and email to HR director. Syllabus area covered were governance and talent management. Technical skill for part A was related to board diversity. No professional mark skills were there because the verb used was explain how a more diverse board could help the company. But for part B, where you were supposed to evaluate advantages as well as disadvantages of adopting talent management program, skepticism skills were tested. So we're supposed to probe into issues related to introducing a TMP for this company. Remember, exam questions can be based on any syllabus area. And one of the comment that came was, okay, students poorly knew what a talent management program means. And again, a skepticism skill meant that you would focus more about disadvantages of talent management program, which was not found by the examiner in the answer scripts. So let's go through the comments that examiner made for task 2. The term diverse in relation to the board was misunderstood by worrying number of candidates. That's what is a serious comment according to me. Either the candidates took it to mean only a bigger board or a board having more non-executive directors or members who are coming from different functional areas. Now, that's not the only meaning of diversity. And weaker candidates further stated only in general language what they mean by diversity without actually linking benefits of diversity to this company. So that is what is asked to you. Explain benefits that will flow to the company by having a diverse board. Like effective decision making, objectivity, transparency, all those points should flow in rather than going on explaining only when what diversity means. Age diversity, sex diversity, experience, expertise, etc., etc. What benefit will it bring? You know, that has to be highlighted. And students fail to do that, naturally they don't get a pass. Quite a lot of repetition of points now using different language. Repetition is a serious error wherein you spend more time without getting marks for that. There tended to be quite a lot of repetition, as the examiner said, mentioning points around improving employee and company performance and providing better service to customers, especially in the task 2B, where the talent management program related questions were asked. Again, many students failed to appreciate the importance of learning all syllabus areas, and that resulted in poor technical knowledge about a talent management program. Many candidates didn't even use the Exhibit 3 effectively. Candidates assumed that the article that was given in Exhibit 3, in fact, was written specifically for this NC Tech company, which was not correct. In fact, it was a general article that was written, and that is what should have been linked to check whether those points were valid for NC Tech company or not. But if you conclude that this article is written for this company, obviously you will lead to wrong conclusions regarding the advantages and disadvantages of a TMP. And as I said earlier, many candidates explained in details only what a TMP means without even addressing the question on its advantages and disadvantages. Naturally, skepticism skill marks also will be lost. Task 3 now. Task 3 was based on the syllabus area of governance. Part A required the students to prepare a report to the commercial director, and you were supposed to deal with stakeholder influences on strategic planning and their conflicting demands. The moment stakeholders influence is the phrase that students see, and they have learnt about Mandela matrix and they start writing everything that they know about Mandela matrix without even considering what the examiner wants them to do. First of all, they identify wrong stakeholders also. You are supposed to identify only those stakeholders who would have an influence on strategic planning. And then among the stakeholders that you have identified, you should have explained how their interests and their demands on the company would conflict with each other. Evaluation skill was tested, which required you to appraise the influence on strategic planning. Now, this is a key phrase. If you don't read this statement correctly, naturally, you will not include it as a part of your answer and then go on losing marks. Part B was supposed to be written in a presentation slide format with supporting notes. And what you were supposed to do, two things. Number one, explain the 6 types of capital to be included in the integrated reporting. And second, advise on the basis of advise on the business benefits of adopting this integrated report. Communication skill, slide preparation. Remember, you have to be very effective, clear, simple, using appropriate tone. You are preparing the slides for the board. So slides should contain bullet points and accompanying notes should elaborate those bullet points. Now let's see what the examiner had to say on the student's performance on task 3. Weaker candidates merely applied Mandelo metrics for all stakeholders, regardless of the fact whether those really would influence strategic planning process of the company. Many candidates didn't outline conflicting stakeholder interests, conflicting shareholders, because there were some shareholders who were institutional shareholders, some were founder members and shareholders of the company. So naturally, each one's interests and each one demands on the company would be different. Exhibit did hint towards that. Students failed to, pick up them. Many candidates just went on discussing the conflicts only between the 3 executive directors, which was evident from Exhibit 4, but they failed to recognize the conflicting interests about stakeholders. Remember, although the executive directors are also part of the stakeholders, but they are internal. You should consider more external stakeholders logically to bring out their influence on strategic planning and their conflicting interests. That should have been done. Many candidates also included stakeholders who were not even mentioned in the exhibit information. They talked about government, they talked about regulators, they talked about banks. Now, this is like including irrelevant information as a part of your answer. Technically, you will spend a lot of time in explaining them, but without getting sufficient marks for your answers. Part 3B, there were a lot of generic answers. Stronger evidence in this case, poor time management. Basically because this was task 3, part B, so students would have answered it almost towards the end of exam time. And because of the poor time management for the earlier tasks, the answers to this task suffered from this limitation. So they just wanted to make sure that they write some things, some generic points, and feel that they should get some marks, but that's not going to happen. Let's look at some of the comments that examiner made about the evidence of students performing with regard to the professional skills marks. Task 1A, commercial acumen. As I said, if you copy paste information without considering whether they're relevant for the task and whether they're relevant for NC Tech company's current position, it's a poor reflection of your professional acumen skill as such. Analysis, task 1B. Examiner says that yes, this was generally well demonstrated because students for this task at least were able to consider the information given and aligned it to security layers, except for some students who, as earlier identified, had poor knowledge about the security layers. But those who did well could consider all that information. to be skepticism. When you're supposed to be skeptical, you shouldn't be skeptical about everything. Now, for example, students in this answering this task were skeptical about the benefits mentioned in the articles, whether they will be realized or not, without identifying the potential problems of implementing the talent management program within the company. That was more important. Disadvantages of implementation of talent management program. Now, unless you have a very strong technical knowledge base about this syllabus area, you'll not be able to reflect it into your answers. Evaluation. Task 3A, generally well demonstrated. So I have nothing much to say about it. Good, I would say. Communication was disappointingly reflective. Number one, the examiner said that although the students used the answer format correctly, slides, they didn't use bullet points. Now, again, professional skill marks would be there for clarity, simplicity, and persuasiveness about your communication abilities. But if you don't include bullet points and then elaborate on them in your accompanying notes, you're going to lose professional skills marks. Of course, you would notice that there were no professional skills mark for task 2, part A. So this is the crux and essence of the specific comments made by the examiner in the December 2023 SBL examination. I'll now come to address some of the common, frequently asked questions which students often ask as they prepare for the SBL examination. The first and very important question is related to answer formats, especially when examiners use formats like briefing notes or briefing paper. Are they same? Should we write introduction and conclusion even in the briefing note? Where can we find the answer formats in the ACCA Study Hub? Is there any file that consolidates all these formats together and serves as a guidance to us? Well, yes. Please refer to ACCA Study Hub, SBL, of course, chapter number 1.7.1 and 1.7.2, which will provide you every possible guidance on the answer formats. Also, there is a technical article that's published under the Student Support Services. The title of the article is The Importance of Effective Communication for SBL. Please go through this article that's available in the Student Support Service under the tab Examining Team Guidance. These resources are very useful in understanding all different formats. Once you understand them, do a lot of question practice so that you master the art of using those answer formats. The next question the students have generally is questions about using various models and frameworks. There are about 20 odd models and frameworks that are included in the SBL syllabus areas. First of all, they ask, do we need to mention the models? Do we lose marks if we don't? If the model is not mentioned by the examiner, how do I introduce it or apply it? Now, there is a clear guidance that candidates should not mention the model or framework they are using. Using the model or framework will certainly help to better structure your answer. The answer will have a logical flow, but there are no marks available for mentioning the model. For example, if you're asked to evaluate company's competitive position and you think of using Porter's 5 forces model, don't mention that you're using it, but use a logical flow of structuring your answer, and then give your comments about the bargaining power of suppliers, bargaining power of customers, availability of substitutes, etc., etc. So that will help you make 5 very strong points, and within each you could make sub points. That will make the answer professional, and you would be able to score well. Naming the model is not what is required at this level. How would the pre-scene provide commercial awareness to you? Well, the pre-scene will set the context for the examination. It will help you to get familiar with the business activities of the case study organization and the industry in which it operates. It's designed to provide you the context, as I said, and also the background, but that's it. The real answers in the exam will be based on additional exhibits that will be provided to you at the time of exam. But from the pre-scene, you would certainly know about the industry-specific terminology and the meaning thereof. Industry information could give you a sense of wider external factors that may affect the business. It will also sensitize you on the business model that is used by the organization. And the structure of pre-scene is also very logically developed by ACCA. The industry overview, industry challenges, industry-specific terminology, industry's current scenario, future outlook, all that is mentioned as external macro environment for a certain organization, about which you would be given the organizational overview, the ownership, the business model, the products, the markets, the services that they deal with, the customers, their value chain, their suppliers, their risks, their board structure, etc. So if you know these things well and learn them really well before you take your SBL examination, naturally you would have gathered all the required commercial awareness about the industry and about the company in particular. Can we use information from pre-scene in the answer? Now, this question has started popping up since September 2023, where pre-scene was introduced. Well, I have already told you pre-scene information is only going to set a context for you, not answering from pre-scene. For answering, you will have to make use of information provided in additional exhibits. Now, you may be able to draw references from the pre-scene information, only as a reference, of course. For example, you could say that this particular proposal is not in alignment with the existing mission statement of the company, which is, and therefore you mention the existing mission statement that's available to you in the pre-scene information. But the point that you make is it's not in alignment with the mission. So whether the stakeholders would approve a departure from your existing mission or not, that needs to be looked at. So you could be skeptical about that, for example. Some more questions that students frequently have in their mind. How can we do more question practice considering this new exam format for the SBL? Well, question practice has 2 parts. One is honing your technical skills, for which there are a lot of questions in the ACCA Study Hub. But to be able to take a full-scale exam practice, you have 4 full exam-style case studies included in the SBL ACCA Study Hub. And it's on 4 different industries. The industries covered are railway, chocolate manufacturing, fashion industry, technology industry. Now, getting exposed to different kind of industries is a part of your practice, and being able to understand and answer questions based on that will provide you with immense exam practice. So please make use of that resource. Best possible practice you could get from the questions in the ACCA Study Hub. Plus, of course, don't forget to take the pre-March mock examination, which will be published by ACCA very, very shortly. Another question, how many points would be sufficient when answering the tasks? Well, the general guidance is there that you can get 1 mark per valid point. Naturally, decide based on the total number of marks, technical marks that are available. Okay, so if there are 18 technical marks, does it mean that you should put at least 18 points? Not necessarily. Look, 18 could be total marks. Split that requirement into its subparts as may be asked. For example, in task 1A for December exam, there were 3 aspects to be written. So 18 marks would be roughly split into 6 marks each per part. And for 6 marks, you may either choose to write 5 or 6 marks depending on your level of preparedness and understanding, or there is another guidance which says 2 marks per well-developed point. And I've already highlighted to you using the examiner's guidance as to how to write a well-developed point. So you need to be selective. Select the most significant and relevant point and develop it well to get those 2 marks. How to process exhibit information. Sometimes it's difficult within the time that is given. Now, please remember, under the new SBL examination structure, exhibits aren't too many. There could be 3 or 4 maximum. Plus, they're not lengthy. Just about 1 pager, unlike the exams before September 23. So, first of all, reading, understanding, and processing a 1-page information shouldn't be difficult, provided, of course, you have done a good question practice on your own. And then you're thorough with the pre-seen information. Based on that, I'm sure you would be in a position to assess as to how you are using the exhibit information. Don't ignore the examiner's report also, where examiners have pointed out how ineffectively students have used the exhibit information. So rectify those findings, those weaknesses, and you will be in a position to use the exhibit information better. And try yourself out, of course, in mock examinations. How do you write professional answers? Obviously, I mean, 2 marks for well-developed point, if at all you feel that the answer is professionally written. So apart from demonstrating a specific professional skill that is being tested, overall professional answer would include the most significant points which are relevant to the task and discussing as to why you feel the point is significant with respect to the company in the case scenario. For example, you could talk about the importance or significance of that point with regard to the company's future performance, its competitiveness, its risks, its position vis-a-vis competitors, etc., etc. Then ensure that you don't repeat the same points again in different words. And of course, don't forget that you address the requirements rather than writing whatever you know about it. So this was, in a nutshell, the contents that I wanted to concentrate on and let you know where the students are lacking in their preparation and in their exam technique, based, of course, on the examiner's observations, comments, and findings. I trust you would find this video very useful and make use of it to prepare yourself very well in the upcoming couple of weeks. So I wish you all the very best for your preparations in the for the upcoming SBL examination. Wish you all the very best. Thank you very much for attending this video. Thank you.